All right, I'll call the July 21st Planning Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Brad Ray,
Here.
Terry Van Buren,
Here.
George Bousset,
Here.
Elizabeth Franick. Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Jarrett,
Here.
Gary Mertig. Believe you're online. Can't hear you, but we see you. We got Paul Wilharm,
Here.
Dan Grady,
Here.
Lissa Radke,
Here.
Charlie Ortman,
Here.
Marcus Jolma.
Here.
And then one thing I wanted to make a comment. Emily had asked if we could make a motion to change the agenda. Okay.
Yeah, instead of approving the agenda to take 5A and put that below B and C so we can make sure we get the timeline and draft plan elements stuff done first. So if somebody would like to approve the amended agenda, make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Dan, second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hi. Megan Salmon Tumas, Ashland County resident, City of Ashland resident, and member of the city's Sustainability Committee. I wanted to make a comment about how the document is structured and suggest a change to it that I thought might make it easier for the public to review and provide input on. Specifically, the way it's currently structured in the draft that you're working with, all of the objectives are grouped together, and then all of the action steps are grouped together. And for somebody who's coming to this document a little more new to it, as much of the public will be, it can be difficult for them to evaluate what the city is specifically planning to do about a specific objective they care about. Many people have a certain passion or an interest or expertise in one thing, and they want to know, okay, what is the city planning to do about this thing? And that's where their input, I think, can be the most valuable. But when everything is grouped together, they have to spend a long time poring over that chapter to kind of figure out what is the plan for this objective. There is an alternative where I've seen in other comprehensive plans where the table of actions are actually grouped into sections with the objective as the header. So it'll say objective and state the objective, and then it'll state the actions for that specific objective. And that makes it much faster and easier for somebody reviewing it to see what specifically is planned for each objective. That's the end of my comment.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I just wanted to state that Stephen Wiley from the City Planning Department's here. So if we have questions about what city does and what county does, Stephen can help answer those.
Perfect. Thank you for being here, Steve. Charlie, you have something?
I was just wondering, Megan, do you have like a sample of one of those ones that you like most?
I didn't bring any printed copies, but a nearby example for us would be Bayfield County's 2023 comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Listen,
A quick announcement
you bet.
that might be of interest. Next Monday and Tuesday, there's 4 opportunities in Ashland and Bayfield County to attend public input sessions and county board meetings about the issue of data center impacts in rural communities. So I sent, I think everybody in the room an email copy, but if you haven't seen it, we would love for elected officials to come. It's been planned with UW Extension in both counties and Dan Grady and Mark Abels Allison.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any online? in person? All right, I'll look for approval of the minutes from the July 8th meeting.
Move to approve. I just got it on tape, sorry.
Terry, second.
Second from Terry. Any additions, edits, changes, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the discussion action items. We'll start with 5B. What's on the agenda, the timeline and plan adoption. I'd like to hand it over to Emily on this.
Thank you. So we wanted to get a grasp on the next steps and the target dates for the final pieces of the plan update and then the plan adoption process, which is typically a 4 to 5 month process for completion. So I wanted to start from the end and work our way towards where we are for the next meetings, but confirming for the county board ordinance adoption, at what date was it planned for county board ordinance adoption for the comprehensive plan?
I believe we were going to do October, were we not, Dan, because of the fact that it falls on around the holiday?
For the actual adoption, we're looking at November or December.
Okay.
Because, well, we could do October, the last Tuesday in October if we're,
That just pushes everything up though on the,
yeah, we have to be done by December.
right.
So, but yeah, we could, but it means we have to do the 30-day notice in mid-September because
Too early.
of how the Daily Press publishes. So
Question?
Go ahead, George.
Don't we all have a copy of this timeline already? Didn't we already talk about it?
Right. We're just kind of finalizing because some of these things aren't hard dates. And the date by December 31st, I think, is what Emily wants to work backwards from that date, which December 31st is New Year's Eve. The chances of us actually having a county board meeting on that is pretty slim.
Yeah,
The chances of having us a county board meeting that week is pretty slim. The chance of us having a county board meeting the week before that is pretty slim. And so typically we have it the fourth Thursday, I think, of the month. It's not going to happen at that fourth Thursday. The month before is November, Thanksgiving week, probably not going to have. So we're going to have it off the normal schedule. And so we really should probably just plan that today of what day in December. It sounds like December is probably the best option that county board meeting would be so we can work back on all the notices. Go ahead, George.
You know, if we're the planning committee, doesn't the county board set its own timetable?
the county board chair and I set this timetable.
But we can request that we need one.
The
But I would think
15th
if we-
looks-
Well, our chairman's online. I mean, but I know when this whole process started, he would said we could do it whenever we needed to.
Yeah.
So if we choose a date, I'm sure Chairman Mertig will be fine with it.
Yeah, because I think his audio is not working well.
No, I'm on.
Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Would December 15th, I heard Terry mention that, would that work for a county board meeting?
It would work for me. Everybody else?
It could, yeah. So Tuesday, the 15th,
Yeah.
yeah, that could work.
I know it's not the normal schedule, but I think it would be conducive to give us as much time as possible with all the 30-day
Right.
jumps.
and you can hold the public hearing on that same date.
We can hold a public hearing in October if we like.
Yeah.
We're meeting the last Tuesday in October for budget, so we can hold a public hearing then. I mean, we have to have a public hearing anyhow for the budget, so we can do two of them. Or we can hold a public hearing in September, whatever is easier.
But does the 30-day hearing, that doesn't, the plan doesn't have to be done by the 30-day announcement.
This planning committee would have a resolution. And when the county board will receive your resolution, and then that time, the 30 days would start with the public hearing notice. A resolution comes from this planning committee first.
Right. So based off of this timeline, October, we would have the resolution. Then December 15th, we would have, and then get a 30-day notice out
30
for,
days, okay.
For the public hearing. The public hearing would happen on the December 15th
Yes,
at the same time as the ordinance to adopt it.
does that work?
The only bad thing is if there's a bunch of public comment that we don't really have much time to change it before passing it. But I guess we can change
Things
it
can
during
be
the meeting
amended.
and then
Yeah,
amend
you
it.
can pass the ordinance with those amendments in mind.
That's good.
Go ahead, Beth.
Well, otherwise, would it work to put the posting on October 15th and the public hearing in November? And that way we wouldn't have to go through amendments. We could actually, as a group, change things, with one plan, with another meeting.
Yeah,
I know
technically-
as a public, if I hear that I'm invited to give input on the same day that they're adopting the ordinance, I don't think my input is being valued because you can't act on it.
Well,
really.
and we don't have to have the public hearing during a full county board meeting, correct? We could have the public hearing
Yes, we
during
do.
a planning committee.
According to this thing, we do.
It can be hosted, the public hearing can be hosted by this committee, or it can be hosted by the county board. And then the other part is the public open house, which is not a requirement of the comprehensive planning law, but would also be an opportunity for public comment. And typically that happens before this committee does the resolution. So that option would be the public open house is held on a preliminary draft plan. This committee meets and discusses any of the public comments, and at that time does the resolution. And then that resolution gets to the county board. So there are different sorts of means to the end. Would this committee like to do a public open house on the draft plan
I think it would be wise, right?
before the public comment period officially begins? And we could still target that in October.
I would think we should do the public hearing at a county board meeting so the entire board can hear the feedback. So that meeting would be October 27th.
All right, I'm having trouble on this timeline. Is anybody? If we are gonna adopt the plan on December 15th, and we have to hold a public hearing, and the recommendation has been to hold that public hearing prior to the 15th, so that would push it to October 27th. That's the
We're not
public
going to have a
hearing.
November meeting because of Thanksgiving.
That means the 30-day notice would go out in September.
Yep, September.
You'd have to have an open house next month.
Could we have the open house before? Could we still have the open house after the public notice went out? Could that be part of the public notice that we're having an open house first?
The public open house and the public hearing are two different
Yep.
meetings. It depends on what do you want the public open house to be meant for? Like, usually I do a presentation on the highlights of the plan update, and then tell people about the plan adoption process and let them know that the next step is that the plan moves to the adoption process. Usually the public open house precedes the plan adoption process, like is the final step of this committee before it goes to the county board. But I'll leave that it's all up to you what you'd like to do.
Go ahead, Beth.
I'm wondering if the county has the budget to hold a board meeting in November, because just like we adopted which week we'd be meeting in December, if it's possible, if we can afford to, we could actually meet in November, and it seems like it would be a really useful thing to do considering the plan. Counting November out is causing a lot of problems unless there's just not budget to meet that month.
Budget's not the issue. It's whatever Chair Murtick wants to do.
Gary, what's your feeling on hosting the public hearing a month before the adoption of the ordinance?
I don't have a problem with it, depending on if you can add 2 more chairs to the room. That's a joke. I mean, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna have a public forum, you're gonna have to make sure you advertise it. So, so we get more than 2 people.
And the public hearing is for public testimony. There's no back and forth.
Right. I think
But
the
the-
open house is the better way of getting input anyway. And so if we can target a meeting and maybe even an evening meeting to allow for working people to come as opposed to even an afternoon meeting, where we as just a planning committee host the open house as a regular committee meeting, hear that input, have Emily give her presentation and get input prior to that in October, then maybe it's not the end of the world for testimony on the plan at the ordinance where we could edit it in the ordinance before adoption. We do that with the budget, right? There's public testimony, public hearing during that, a lot of public hearings. And so maybe that just works, the timeline works better. George?
Yeah, question. Do we need to use this facility for a public open house? Or could we use something at a school or at the WIDC?
I think
a better setup for seating. Is that available to us?
I think we could go anywhere in the county.
The hazard mitigation
Are you
plan,
gonna,
the
are
county
you going to,
updated.
Emily, are we going to need 2 things? One is, are we going to need any type of internet connection or availability that the public could come in online? And then again, too, if it's an evening meeting, Emily, would you attend by web?
I would attend in person. For the county hazard mitigation plan, we held it at the Morris Town Hall and it worked well.
Okay,
The new library in town has a nice meeting room
Yeah.
as well. Go ahead.
I love the new
Thanks.
library, and we've heard throughout this process and others that we don't do as much in the southern part of the county as possible. So the Town Morris mitigation public meeting was a fabulous site. And we got people there it's only like half an hour for both north and south parts of the county. It really should be at night because we haven't had good attendance during daytime hours at these meetings, and that's sort of the last chance to get people's input. I'd be happy to work with Emily to promote it and Facebook it and get the word out everywhere.
Do we want to go ahead and set a date for that open house and we can work on a venue between now and then? Yeah, like we can work on, well, that's true. We could wait and got a connection here. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I was just thinking, raising the idea that we could have more than one open house. We could do one here at Ashland and one down county. And maybe wouldn't need everybody there, but we could be more accessible that way.
Yeah, Bayfield County actually did 3 open houses for theirs around the county. And then Northwest Regional Planning provided the presentation to the county to present at the 2 open houses we did not attend.
Is there an urge from the committee to hold more than one? Charlie?
My experience there, we haven't really had a lot of turnout for those, not that that's a reason not to have them, but it's an optional event anyway, isn't it?
It is.
So I would say, I would support having them. But if we're pressed for time, that's historically been a non-information gathering or a potential wasted. And not to say it would be this time, but just to throw it out there.
George, go ahead.
It just seems to me that we plan the primary open house here in Ashland and that the option is open to us. We think it's needed to have a subsidiary session down county, which we wouldn't even have to call an open house. We could call it the information session for the local community, say in Mellon and Butternut. We don't have to put it in the schedule necessarily right now. We could always, we'd have the presentation for our primary open house. And then if somebody else wants to see it down county, we could just do it.
It's a plan that's for the whole county. And I would be in favor of having two. I don't know if you want to decide that now, but you were calling us to pick dates between now and December. So doing the outreach on this plan, it seems like it's been an underrated priority that we engage the community, and everything's been in Ashland. Granted, it's the largest population center, but there is a perception that there's a north-south bias. So it would be great to have two. So I don't know if you have to decide that right now, but we've got representatives from the county board, from down county jurisdictions. I'd like to hear from them too.
Go ahead, George.
I was just thinking if we held one of a point, we might get quite an earful.
Charlie?
I support Lissa's suggestions, and I also think that we should pick a date for Morse Hall. And then if Carisha can find out sooner rather than later if that's available or not, then that would be one step out of the way. And if the worst that would happen is maybe she sends around a doodle poll of what dates Morristown Hall has available. Thank you.
Go ahead, Beth.
As someone who's been responsible for scheduling things, maybe we pick a couple of dates for the Morristown Hall, so we have that and an alternative. I think if we're going to hold two, we should know that ahead of time so that they can be, the public announcement can be done all at once, either come to give your input here or here. Maybe mixing up the time, day and a daytime and an evening or something like that. And I do wonder about Madeline Island, if we're accommodating the south of the county, what about our island citizens as well?
Paul, how long does the ferry run in September? Right, that's the problem with Madeline Island, the ferry.
And I imagine we'd have Zoom links.
I mean, at a minimum, it should be available at public places, libraries, town centers for people to be able to view it.
No, but we need some dates thrown out as potential dates. So Emily, you're going to be the keynote at one of them. Or do you have some dates in October that work for you to start this?
It looks like my month of October is open except for Monday, October 19th. Yeah. So far, so good.
Anybody have a date for, we'll start with 2 dates. It sounds like we're going to do 2 meetings, and maybe Paul will take a third opportunity on the island. I think the comment is if we're going to do 2 meetings, we go ahead and advertise 2 meetings and not, so 2 meetings, one south, one in Ashland. Terry, go ahead.
I would probably do one at the board meeting, the 27th, and the other one, the 20th, at a different location. And as long as I'm here, we've had the whole public meetings, in the city of Mellon. And basically, we're looking at ourselves. So I won't say that'll happen here like Charlie, but that's experience we've had.
I'm concerned about that too. Maybe the evening changes things if we do a 6, but I'm very concerned about that too, is because we've had, I don't know how many planning committees, and we've had 2 public comments by the same person, I think. And she just walked out. But I agree that it may be just us.
These are 6 o'clock council meetings.
Yeah.
So
yeah, what's the time preference of an evening meeting? Is it 6 o'clock? Is that the time? 6? I don't know if it's 6 or 7. I go to bed at 8, so it can't be too much
I would
later.
say 6 because frankly, I don't want to drive back on Highway 13. I mean,
So, all right, 6 p.m. I will let you know that there's a very good chance once middle of October happens that you don't see me because of my work schedule. So I may not be at either of these meetings, even at 6 o'clock, because I leave Bayfield at 4 a.m. Or to Bayfield at 4 a.m. And so 6 o'clock is pushing. So no, later is even worse because then I got to get to bed to wait to get out of the house by 4 a.m. So I heard the 20th and the 27th tentatively. And so if one of those days is open for Morris, and then we'll get the other one at the library, this can be a fallback place if we can't get that. So we'll work to see if we can get Morris Town Hall on one of the 20th or 27th. And then after that, we'll see if we can get the library for the other one. If not, we'll do it in this room. That's not good. But yeah, but we might not need, we might not need everybody at the public hearings too. So yeah. So
That is a little problematic though, because the people that are engaged in the city may be the ones that would be engaged with county.
that's true.
And now we're making them choose.
And should we have it on the same day as that we would? The same day as the resolution passing that evening, is that also problematic? That we already passed the resolution? A little too late getting input?
Well, sometimes counties will hold the open house and close the open house and then approve the resolution is another option. Like if the other meeting happened to be in the city of Ashland somewhere, the planning committee could have the resolution after the open house.
So we could see if the 20th is available for Morris and then just have the open, and then, well, but then again, we want to advertise it. We don't want to do something. We could do it 9 o'clock, the open house 9 o'clock on the 27th, right before the count, and be a part of the official county board meeting.
Does that work?
9 a.m. on the 27th here for an open house. That would be part of the county board meeting on the day we'd pass the resolution. And an open house on the 20th down in Morris at 6 p.m.
So then the 30 days would be in November.
Yep,
and then ordinance December 15th.
yep. The public hearing and the passing of the ordinance would happen on the same day of December 15th. November would be whenever we have to get with the Ashland Daily Press to get the 30-day notice in between by the 15th.
And then a letter also gets sent to all non-metallic mining establishments about the public hearing.
And Emily, isn't it a minimum of 30 days?
Yes, minimum
So
30
we could
days.
actually do the public hearing notice and announce that at the open house on the 27th
Yes.
and send it into the Daily Press afterwards.
Yep. Okay, so that means we need to get a notice of the public open house. How many days in advance of October 20th would we need to do that?
Just following your own local
Oh, okay, so,
rules.
so at least 2 weeks. So, but really, I think the earlier we do it, the better, and then another blast as we get closer, if there's gonna be stuff from Facebook or whatever. Beth?
I feel as soon as we have the location locked in, we should really get that out there, not just the minimum.
Right, yeah.
And that might be one of the reasons we only get 2 people to show up. So
Yep.
I think we should put a little effort into getting the word out.
So we could have that even up by August here, we could have the notice of that. But when's the deadline then to post the full draft plan then? Because we want, and then that would be another blast of the open houses when we do that, get that out, the draft plan. When do we want to target that?
We give ourselves maximum amount of time for that, in my opinion, because we're pretty far from being there. So whatever the absolute last day is, that works with the rest of the schedule. That's my suggestion.
So if we're going to have the resolution to recommend draft plan at October 27th, the ordinance on December 15th, when should we have that draft plan? And the public open house on the October 20th, when should we have the draft plan ready, Emily?
I'd say by the middle of
was that?
September.
I would say by the end of September.
I'd say even by the middle of September.
Yeah. About a month
George.
before the Morse meeting.
Seems to me you only publish it 30 days before the county board meeting to approve it. Because I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer, but what happens if it becomes evident that there are obvious changes come to light in the meantime? So even after we publish the draft plan, and then there's just an issue rises and it's evident that we have to make some changes, what becomes our process requirement then?
That's why it's so important to be reviewing the draft plan right now.
Yep. What, if there is substantial changes, once it goes on a draft plan, do we have to do another 30-day? Does
If
the
you-
plan itself have to be available in its format for 30 days before we pass it?
Prior to the public hearing. Any changes can be made up until the plan's been adopted by ordinance by the county board.
Because we could make change.
Microphone, please.
Yeah, and then you follow the same process with the public hearing notice.
Once you,
Anytime you amend the plan, you have the public hearing.
could you make a handful of changes?
Yes.
So how
So-
wiggly is that room if we make a significant change in the period George is worried about? Could that be conglomerated into some group that 6 months later we do another thing? As long as we
Yeah,
have those reviewed, would that ease your mind, George?
So I'm wondering, say, so, and you have a county board meeting, And a number of the county board members raise a material issue. They don't want to vote for this plan because there's something that we didn't think of, came up at the last minute, or it's a surprise. Then if we want to amend the plan at that point to accommodate this concern, do we have notice requirements? Do we have to recycle and do a 30-day notice and come back to the following county board meeting? What would be our process? Or could they amend it in that meeting and then still pass it?
Yeah, you could amend it at the meeting and still pass it. Or it could come back to this committee. The county board may say we want the plan to go back to this committee to make these amendments.
So I think between October 27th and November 15th, there will be plenty of time for that plan to be out there. And if we get that plan a month before the September or October 20th open house, a month before that, there's plenty of time that there shouldn't be any huge changes at that time. So I think our target then should be September 20th, which I was going to look at which date that is. September 20th would be a Sunday. So then to go to that Friday before that. So September 18th should be our deadline of posting that plan.
So should we schedule a meeting for the week of the 14th?
Yes.
Yeah. So schedule a meeting for like September 15th?
September 15th at 2:00.
Yeah.
Final. We're going to get it approved.
And I have one more meeting with you all. Would that be the one that I should plan to attend?
I think so. If that one works, if September
Yes.
15th works for you, Emily,
Yeah, that'll work.
let's do that one. Okay. So that means we basically have 2 months to wrap this up, the plan up, and then we'll have public outreach stuff going on, making sure we get the notices, the county board on board. And then the good thing is we see that we have the ability as long as we do a 30-day notice to amend the plan. So if there are big roadblocks that we really button our heads on between now and September 15th, we come to a compromise and have time next winter to come to a more sensible thing at that time. And the public input can help kind of direct that too, if maybe in that meantime. So, okay. So, yeah, Terry.
Yeah, I just noticed, November 15th 's on a Sunday too. I don't know if that was just a deadline or something we needed to do.
Yeah, September 15th. Okay. Well, yeah, but September 15th, then October 20th we want the plan out 30 days before that October 20th day. And then we're going to have another open house along with the resolution to recommend draft plan to the county board on October 27th. And then we'll have our public hearing and ordinance to adopt the updated comprehensive plan on December 15th. Yep, November's out. We'll have a meeting probably to finalize anything based off public comment from the board, that sort of thing, to make any amendments and get that reposted, hopefully at least 30 days in advance of that meeting. So then we can still get more comments at that as well. Go ahead, George.
I just have a suggestion that for the open house, that we each be prepared to answer questions related to the portions of the plan on which we were individually focused.
I think that's a good suggestion that we should probably all follow. And if somebody's unavailable to be there, hopefully somebody can pick up the slack on those as well. Beth, go ahead.
Since that happened before the the new round, you know, I'm not in charge of any sections, so, I guess I feel like maybe we should, if we're gonna do something like that, we should make sure everybody's got a section.
And how about we put that for an agenda in an August meeting to assign topics to be most familiar with at open houses? Can you make a note of that? Thank you. All right. Are we good with the timeline? So we do have the last facilitated comprehensive planning committee meeting will be September 15th and not in August. And so we will, yeah, after we get through, we will set up some at least August meetings probably. I think this kind of every couple weeks, and we can do that, but I really want to use our Northwest Regional Planning's time most efficiently, so we can kind of come back to August meeting date. Is there anything else on the timeline you guys need to pass to us?
That should cover everything. Do you want me to send the most updated timeline with all these dates
That would be wonderful.
for the next meeting?
Instead of my chicken
all
scratches
that.
here.
Yep.
Not yet. Not yet. We'll come back to that. When we get to agenda item 6. So,
Can I say one quick thing?
yep,
That was hard. That was grueling, but I am so happy that this is the first time for all of us doing this. And it's hard and grueling, and we just did a great process. Thank you.
Did.
well, Charlie was involved the last time, but. All right. So that takes care of our timeline and plan adoption discussion. I think, agree that we did a good job of getting that through, even though it was a little bit longer. But we should now start talking about the draft plan elements.
Sure. The first thing I'll mention is that I finished the draft maps a week ago, and they were all posted online for this committee's review. So I'm here to take any comments or questions you guys might have with the maps. I already got Brittany's comments from Land Records, got a couple changes to make based on her requests. They're all pretty simple, just minor stuff. So if anyone has any other questions or concerns, I'd be happy to take them.
Beth, go ahead.
I guess my comment is just that from this agenda, it was unclear to me that that would be what we'd be doing, is looking at those maps. So I haven't even looked at them. I'm sorry.
All the maps for the most part were in the previous plan. Nothing significant has changed other than updating, traffic counts and things like that. A lot of the same natural resource data was used in the previous plans, so nothing earth shattering. But if you have time and want to review them, send me an email if you have changes or questions. I'm happy to respond that way too.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to review the map, so I was just wondering, are there energy corridors in these mappings? So like power lines, corridors, pipeline corridors, do they appear on the maps?
No, I don't have current data for that. That was all held by Homeland Security, and access to that data was removed by the administration.
I'm just thinking, don't we think that should be in our maps?
I got an email earlier today from Brittany with the county GIS.
Yep.
I'm going to tell her just to contact you with anything she's got. Okay.
Yeah, she got those.
Oh, she already got those?
I was.
Okay. Okay. So, do we want to look at the maps then, since some people might not have looked at it? We can quickly look at each one on the screen here.
Sure, I can.
I have a quick question. Are we I have to leave relatively soon, so I'm wondering if we're gonna be doing, action plan review that's on the agenda and when we would be getting to that.
The goal would be to get to those, yes.
Okay.
th- I just, Beth, go ahead. You,
Just so we don't lose whatever she came to say.
that's a great idea. Go ahead, Mary Jo. What do you, we'll just,
Okay, so I went through, I'm assuming everything that's in red in here is proposed edits.
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So I did write my written comments for what I could get through, but, starting on page 1, there is 2 paragraphs at the last part of the page 1 that talks about the planning committee will be responsible for annual reviews at a consistent time each year. So I was just kind of curious, when is this consistent time and who is accountable for scheduling that?
We're not there
Because
yet,
there's
Mary Jo.
not actually an action item.
Mary Jo, we're not there yet.
We're
We
not
haven't-
where,
No, yeah, well,
Yeah, but it will be the chair of the committee and I that set the.
yeah.
okay,
But that's a good idea that there's not an action item that goes with some of these, that we need to make sure that there's an action item that matches up with these.
and that's actually most of my comments. They're all specific objectives that have no action item tied to them. In the next paragraph after that, about the planning committee, it also says the planning committee should strive to be inclusive. It goes on for a full sentence, and it said this would include inviting department heads, relative committees, and intergovernmental partners. And when, again, would that annually occur? And as far as like relevant committees and intergovernmental partners, we might want to actually identify who those are, especially if we have turnover in who would be responsible for scheduling this. It might not be assumed who those partners are.
You're on like page 5, right?
Page 1,
Oh, it's still 1.
yeah.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have,
She's on page 4 of 38 or page 1 introduction.
yeah. Here, I'll click.
Green means something. Good stuff, Mary Jo, thank you. Also in the plan monitoring and evaluation chapter, I know I put comments in there on more specifics because I agree you have to have really specific information to make a plan viable. So maybe check that out and see if any of that answers those questions.
Where is that?
It's the second to last page in your packet for today. It starts on page 33. It's, I think the 10th chapter called Plan Monitoring and Evaluation.
Yeah, I did look through here. It still doesn't list any specifics or timeline.
Well, somewhere I wrote in the first quarter of every year, I suggested in one of my edits to do it at the front of the year, the beginning of the year, because that's when most people are, hitting the reset button. And it does say who is responsible for the action steps, the county board, committee chairs, and committee
Mhm.
county administrator.
Okay.
But I totally agree that the strength of this moving forward will be that it's done annually and not something that dies on our shelves, as we all like to say.
Page 5, housing objectives, item A. Promote and encourage maintenance and improvement of the housing stock and reduce conditions of blight. So in the action steps, there's nothing that refers to blight. No action item. I mean, we do talk about resources and incentives, but we don't relate that.
Mary Jo,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why Stephen's here. The actual addressing of blight is a city, town, and village issue.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen, maybe you want to address that.
Thanks, Dan. So I do think that in the city's plan, we are starting our comprehensive plan process as well. But blight is a focus of the city of Ashland. I'm not sure, if like city of Mellon or some of the other townships have their own ordinances, but I know we try to do active property maintenance enforcement, pretty proactive, I should say. So, if you want more information on the city's efforts or ways we can partner, I'm happy to discuss those. I can share information after this meeting or email with more information on what we do if people want that.
Well, this is a county plan. So if
Like,
we have a
addressing
countywide
blight is a
objective,
city, town, and village function, not a county function.
but we're putting a objective in a,
I understand that, and I brought that up when we had one of those.
item B talks about support housing that's resilient to extreme weather through climate adapted design and construction practices. What does that mean? We don't have anything in our action steps regarding that either. So if we have an objective committed to supporting housing, but we have no action items or action steps tied to that, is it essential to have that as an objective?
I think we could link to any number of housing roadmaps to make your house climate proof or wind proof as an action step.
Yeah, I also think that there's something in the action steps. I was just trying to find it with the weatherization programs and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff that's
right.
available that goes along those ideas.
Right.
George? Can you use your microphone?
Keeps turning off. It's appropriate to have objectives that don't have action steps, because these are objectives for a long horizon, and we might not know what the action step will be yet, but we'll still want to try to think toward that objective. And then I have a specific question, since Mary Jo is here, having to do with agriculture, because I have one I'd like to add about agrivoltaics. So what I would like to add in the appropriate section when we get to it is evaluate compatibility of solar electric installations with agricultural land use, include investigation of compatible agrivoltaic techniques. I'm wondering what Mary Jo's perspective is on agrivoltaics and their future possibilities in Ashland County.
I am not prepared to answer that right now. So I guess this relates a little bit to what Megan was talking about earlier, where you have objectives and then you have specific action items that you're going to work towards addressing those objectives. And in the experience that I've had with plans, and we come up with goals and objectives, then we have specific activities that we work on implementing over a work plan to address those goals and objectives. And if the county feels that these objectives are important, then I'm a little uncertain as to why we're not creating action items that will help us strategically utilize grant funding or funding opportunities to target in the future to meet these objectives in the plan.
Well, like George mentioned, sometimes there's going to be objectives that we don't know what to do yet. And because of our shortened timeline that we got a late start and have to get this done by the end of the year, we felt that, hey, let's go through and get down what we need to as objectives that we're comfortable with the goal. And then that allows the standing committee that will be that in the past has been ad hoc. And now that it's standing, we should be able to have the committee kind of work with department heads more frequently and get to, hey, what do you have the capacity to do? Because we haven't necessarily spent a lot of time with department heads like yourself talking about a lot of this stuff. And yet we don't want to necessarily put an action step that's going to be unfeasible either. We've had this talk that the old plan used to have red meaning we're not going to be able to do it. Green, that we're already able to do this. It's easy. Yellow, we're not sure. And we took that away long ago, and that came back at our last meeting. And I'm sure we're going to have a discussion in August about that. And so I hate that I'm kicking the can down the road on a lot of these things when we talk about it, but that's really kind of the situation we backed ourselves into a corner on. And some of this is that we've had a long, lengthy discussions on these objectives as a committee. And this is where we're now getting this out to start getting input, and things might change over the next few months as this public gets in there and asks some of these same questions that we have to then wrestle with as well. Go ahead, George.
Well, I just like to say I completely agree with Mary Jo's perspective when it comes to like a 1 or 2 year plan, but we're talking a 10 or 20 year horizon here. So I don't think all objectives will have action items appropriate to 10 years down the road necessarily.
Other county 10-year plans do have that. Our hazard mitigation plan that we just updated last year is a 10-year plan, and it has specific action items. Our 10-year land and water resource management plan, 10-year plan, specific action items. And these are the tools that allow county staff to be able to apply for grants, because we're able to show proof that this is part of a planning process. And it makes it a lot more successful in grant writing opportunities.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I think George is right. In this case, I also agree with you, but you have had committees and you've been working your plans all the time. You've had the time and the opportunity and a committee behind you to get those plans as detailed as they should be. As Brad says, I would disagree that we're kicking the can down the road. We've always anticipated doing something about those, identify the goals, and then sit down and find out how to solve them. That's exactly why Dan and Gary stood up the standing committee. So we plan on getting these plans as detailed as yours are, and others that have, that's the plan for your department. This is a plan for the county that is going to get the shrift it needs now, but we might have to identify some goals that, like Brad said, we're going to have to sit down later and flesh them out, find the action steps. So thank you.
Could I offer something that might get the whole thing addressed? Could we, for now, since we know we're going to have an annual review probably in 2028, maybe.
I think we're going to reconvene again in January.
Of 27.
Yeah,
So that's
to hash out some of these differences that the committee members have.
So that's an even better timeline if we want to start in January to do an annual review. Could we asterisk now the objectives that don't have an action for them, so that and a note that says the objectives with an asterisk, we recommend be prioritized in the annual review to develop a viable action. That way we're not losing, there won't be holes of information. We'll be saying right here, we know we have work to do and we're prioritizing this.
Go ahead, Beth.
Thank you, Lisa. I was thinking along the same lines. What about this quite drastic suggestion? But I'm not sure we have the right people at the table for the action steps because we are the 30,000 foot view, and it's really our staff that decides on how we get these things accomplished. I'm wondering, unless it's mandated by the plan, do we need the action steps at all? We could say something like this. I think it's really important that we understand that a plan is only good if it has specifics, but we could just extend our very finite energies in getting the objectives correct. And then for the action steps, say, action steps will be determined, and then really outline a tight process. For instance, since we're now a standing planning committee, we could say, I noticed there's about 13 county committees. We could choose each month in the year of 27 to invite the department head that makes sense and the committee chair people or the committee people to a meeting each month of the planning committee and say, we're going to work out some action steps for this item of, or this objective chapter. And that would take all of this off of our plate and give us the right people to decide on what are the action steps. We're 30,000 feet and we're trying to get down into the weeds of 10,000 feet or 10 feet. And we don't have the right people at the table to do it.
I think it's a good point, but I think that we are required by statute to have action steps in the plan.
Statute said that implementation includes specific actions to be completed in a stated sequence, including proposed changes to any applicable zoning ordinances, official maps, or subdivision ordinances to implement the objectives, policies, plans, and programs contained in all parts of the comprehensive plan.
So Beth, why I think your point is well taken, and I think it's a good solution. I just don't think we can do that, but we can still come back and do the same process where we edit those action steps in future meetings still.
And that's exactly right. And it is in that final element or chapter on page 34 in our notes today, plan monitoring and evaluation goal. Those two things that you said are number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But consider noting what objectives might not have a suitable action so that for the next review process, that's highlighted as priority areas to work on.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Part of the planning process is establishing those objectives or those action steps. And we're not there yet. It's in progress. So maybe it's not listed and we say that's our goal.
This is the first full planning committee meeting, I think, where this was on the agenda.
Yep. Well, that we've gotten to it on the agenda.
Yeah.
And the last planning commission or the last planning committee for 2016, it was always our intention to take every one of those to parse out the responsible parties and then all the sections are responsible for and go to them and sit down and create those action steps or be told why they're not realistic. We just failed to get to that part. Like we're struggling now, in which the standing committee said we'll establish the action items later, but the intention is to create them. Just because we haven't done them yet I don't think means we shouldn't put a goal down there. But you're absolutely right. The intention was always to get with the experts, standing committee.
And I think that was even the intention this year, we just didn't really get to it because of just the way everything fell into place. But
So there are a few action items listed in here that have already been completed, like some of them were 8 years ago. I don't know if you want to know what those are or if they're going to be left in here. Or if I should just send those in an email, Emily.
Yeah, that would be good since we haven't yet started on this as a full planning committee.
Okay, I
And then
will
today
send
look
those
at
in
the
an email.
maps.
yeah, and we've talked about some of those action items as we've gone through, that sometimes they're still good because they're still ongoing. Some of those things are still ongoing,
The ones I'm talking about
are done. We're
manure-
never going back to it again.
No.
I thought we got rid of those actions items, but maybe we didn't.
Like creating a manure ordinance. It's been created since 2018.
Yeah.
Now, is it ever gonna get amended? Possibly, but if we're talking about amendment, then we should probably change the wording in
Yes.
here.
And I can compile all of that before the next meeting.
That would be great.
And then the last thing I guess I would mention is for the natural resource objectives and the agriculture resources. Lissa compiled a group last year to go through both of those sections. And this was like a 3-month process where we developed action items, and not one single action item from either of those sections is incorporated into this draft document.
I know, and I have given, there were 5 chapters that were done, not just the 2 that you mentioned, and that information has been given to everybody. And I have gone through my objectives and actions with the climate change lens and sent them over to Emily. But that is a serious blow, I think, to the process, just because there were over 45 people from Ashland County who put a total of over 100 hours into that. We haven't found a way to include that in the process. So I personally was adding things.
I thought we were gonna add that.
Yeah, Mary Jo.
We're adding the 5 plans as an addendum or appendix from what I remember, the whole reports that we wrote.
Mary
for
Jo,
those
the
5
reality is
chapters.
we've just gotten goals and objectives. These action steps are from the previous plan.
Right.
We haven't even gotten that far.
You're the first one that we've talked about action steps, period.
Yeah, and literally, we have not gotten that far.
Yeah, we've
So-
only been talking goals and objectives to this point. But
So they will, but included. Some of them related to what the city was able to do, like stormwater overflow management and that kind of thing. So we had to filter ones that were not things that necessarily counties could do, but then we didn't want to lose that brain think, and that's why the whole plans are added into the plan.
That's the end of my comments. Thank you.
thanks, Mary Jo. I really thought that we had those plan objectives we were talking about at a meeting, that like we were gonna use the agricultural plan that was done and take those and put those in as a lot of the stuff for
Those
this.
were incorporated, but then you revised those as a planning committee.
Oh, is that what we ended up doing?
Yes.
Well, there's like 25 action steps listed in the natural resource section that Lissa ran, and this was approved on February 18th, 25. And it was a multi-month, multi-natural resource partner planning session. And there's a long list of action items, responsible parties, resources, funding, and not a single one is listed as an action item in the comp plan. That's all I'm saying. And not,
And again, we haven't even gotten to the action items. These are all from 10 years ago.
Go ahead, Beth.
So as a committee, do we feel that it would be smart to incorporate the ones that pertain to the county to maximize the use of that thinking? Or do we like the idea of just using it as an addendum?
I thought we kind of talked about it a little bit, that we were going to put in, when we talked about 2 meetings ago, that we were going to put in other plan objectives to make sure that we were not contradicting other plans.
But maybe that was when I missed due to illness. I think there's still time. For me, as a person who's worked on multiple different plans, there are so many plans out there that all have goals, objectives, and actions. You know, like Emily brought up the mitigation plan. A lot of those are based on extreme weather that affect our natural resources, our utilities, our community facilities, our roads. You know, how to compile those and then sift through and take out the redundancies is a massive process, right?
Yeah, and we did do that for the goals and objectives. You have not yet done that for the action steps for the climate reports.
Okay.
So
I guess my vote is that we do maybe ask our facilitator to undertake that and add those action steps, because it feels to me that this is the comprehensive plan. It would be a good place to have all those action steps, so you could go to one place where we're not siloed and see.
Charlie, go ahead.
So two things, the red are edits.
Yep. There's
Some are
obviously some of them are comments in there, because they have, like, what's up there now is what would be included in this database. Like, that's obviously not going to be. Oh, can you use your mic?
I don't have an issue with appendices. And if those plans were stuck in there, you know, in one piece as appendices with a link to their appropriate chapter, I just thought that was easier, but maybe it's not the best thing to do.
I think you should incorporate them as an appendix and have them incorporated into your goals, objectives, actions.
Okay.
George.
I have a question for Emily. So when you prepare the overview presentation for the open house, will this be a set of, summary, easy to read slides, or will this be just scrolling through this detailed plan?
It is a summary of all of the steps and the timeline, and then some of the key data and some of the information with the maps, especially the land use maps. You did the existing land use that shows the current inventory of all the land use in the county. And then the future land use map is in there. And then asking about, like the majority, is asking the community what their thoughts are on the comprehensive plan. The presentation is only about 20 minutes long. I could show you what the Bayfield County Comprehensive Plan presentation
Yeah,
was
so,
like.
so will this show the goals and objectives that we have set out?
It shows a sample of those in the presentation. So in Bayfield County, we took 1 page of the goals, objectives, and action steps and had them on the slide, and then defined what a goal, objective, and an action was, and let people know that those existed for all 9 of the comprehensive plan elements.
So the reason I raise this question is that I feel that when we're all done with this process and we filed our comprehensive plan, we're going to need some kind of summary, easy to read document that an average citizen can actually understand and penetrate. So I thought maybe we'd get that out of this kind of presentation. But I'm saying that next year, when we're done with this document, there won't be a document that an average person is going to try to penetrate. If they want to know what our overview plan, the plan for Ashland County is, you're going to need something that boils it down to 5 or 10 pages. And I just want to put that in our record that I think that's going to be necessary.
executive summary of changes that were made and or in broad strokes.
Something that the average citizen can look at online, spend 10 or 15 minutes and understand what our basic planning is without having to penetrate the density of the plan we're actually going to publish.
Is there an executive summary of the plan?
Your plan does not have an executive summary, but we could have one.
I think that's basically what George is asking for. I think that would be good to have that. Do we want to go back to the maps?
Yes.
Do we want to look at maps while we have our map people here? And then we can spend a meeting in August where we start going through these action steps, and hopefully between now and that meeting in August, Emily can throw some more up there and we can have another document. So everything that we print off paper is just thrown away. Go ahead, Beth.
Okay, if we're going to do that, I want to give the committee something to think about. Perhaps, unless it's mandated, we could get rid of a couple of the columns in the action step that I think are just not important at all. And if we spend time quibbling on them, we'll be losing sight of what is important. For instance, resources needed. I feel like that column is only evident when you go to tackle the problem. Forecasting ahead of time, especially when we are doing it so inconsistently. Staff time, do we list it? Don't we? If we could get rid of that column, I also think evaluation, we could keep that column, but when it's not immediately apparent what the evaluation would be, instead of guessing or spending time throwing something in there, we just say to be determined at an appropriate date. In fact, I think using that terminology, to be determined, it doesn't take it out of our having done something but it makes more sense. And it kind of gets at this, well, it's 10 years, we don't know how it's going to be actually affected. So just think about that for next time, and it might really streamline this process since we're down to a month to just say, we're not ignoring it, we're just admitting reality.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I like that. I support that, but also we could do that with the resources needed and leave that too as a column. Right? Perhaps. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's some benefit to having the resources needed, and evaluation holds us accountable on the evaluation part, something there. The resources needed might help grant funding and might be a good column to have anyway. But I don't know.
As a grant writer, I mean, at that stage, you need the granularity. So if it's in our plan, they just need to know we cared enough to put it in a plan.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I guess from my, I hope not singular perspective, I hope that this at some point becomes a vehicle for us that the state actually starts looking at them and seeing where we need help. And even if it's not at the granular level, they'll get some kind of, they'll look at that column and then one that says long-term, or if we decide to, say we can't do, we need help, that they'll look at it and go, okay, well, let's start we as a state legislature need to funnel some money at this. Say they're looking at all the plans and it's a common theme that we need more money for water treatment or something. So I like it to be as full of parsable data as possible for at some point when these are used to their utmost, which I feel they should be.
Emily, with your experience on that idea with having resources needed and evaluation, are other counties have those columns as well?
No, these are in addition, but it would be up to the county how much detail you want to include.
Something, I think that's something good to, if we get through the maps today we can get through.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will take that up at this next meeting.
Yeah.
I am kicking the can down the road here.
Like your hazard mitigation has timeline, parties responsible, and the priority. high, medium, low.
So I don't think we need to spend too much time on the base map because that's,
I'm
gonna
try and go through these. But there shouldn't be anything too controversial. That was the base map. It just outlines the local units of government within the county. Map 2 is development areas. This looks at the GIS layer from 2020 for assigned addresses and the assigned addresses from 2025, and then subtracts one from the other to show where development occurred in those hexagon bins.
how big are those hexagon bins?
Ooh,
I knew I
don't
should
know
have
off
put
the
you,
top of my- I
put you on the spot there.
I don't know off the top of my head. And it's just qualitatively identified high to low amounts of development.
Right.
Obviously, most of the development is in city of Ashland.
And along 13.
Yes.
Do you remember what the difference between low, moderate, high, heavy?
But no, I
Okay.
don't. It was really lopsided. That's why I did it
Okay.
qualitatively.
That's why I figured it was really, where it was really dark was be way
Yeah.
higher.
So that just kind of aligns the areas where development has occurred over the last 5 years. The third map is functional classification. That's just how the roads are classified in the county. And then it has traffic counts from the DOT at continuous count locations throughout the county. Sorry, these are kind of tough to see up on the screen, but you can zoom in as close as you need to get when you're viewing them on a device. Self-explanatory. This is the emergency medical service territories, which ambulance is serving which parts of the county. And then the next map is the same thing, only instead of the ambulance service, it's fire service. Prime farmland, this is pulled from the USDA soils data where it identifies where the prime farmland is and where farmland of statewide importance is and where prime farmland would be if the lands were drained. This is just a map. Oh,
And sorry, just on that prime farmland, obviously all the Apostle Islands that it's because that's just the right soils for
right.
the statewide importance, right? Okay. What's going on in the central part of the county there that there's really not much? Do you know?
Is that?
Are you a soil
Well, that's kind
scientist?
of the transition zone, right? Where it goes from the clay plain to the older rock.
That's the glacial extent. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Is this the map that shows the ag preservation?
No, that's on the future land use map. Can I go to the next one? This is surface waters and wetlands, just the surface waters and wetlands from the Wisconsin wetlands inventory. Identified on where they're occurring on the landscape.
What we skipped over the watershed ones. What
Oh, sorry
level
about that.
watersheds are those?
Those are Huck
Is it Huck 8
8, I believe, yeah.
or 7? I forget which one. it would
I think
be.
those are Huck 8s.
It's not Huck 12.
What we have left.
Environmental corridors.
Yep, environmental corridors. So these are basically the same thing as the shoreline zoning, where it's buffers around waterways, identifying where wildlife travels. And then it also includes, again, protected areas such as the national forest, and wetlands. Public lands, this is just which entities own which parts of the county. Private is in white, and then the various ownership is in the other colors. It would be county land, land owned by the Forest Service and National Park Service. state land, and then conservation land or trust land. This one's the county zoning map, pretty self-explanatory. And then the existing land use data, which this committee reviewed way back when. And the last map is your future land use map, which we discussed when we met last month. So again, if anyone has questions, comments, wants to review these further, email me and I can make any changes that you deem necessary.
Like how, God forbid, somebody come, edit. Let's say somebody comes in with a plan for a data center. Are these maps electronically available? So there could be layering that says, oh, wait, this is in the wetland and the soils are bad and it's next to a culturally relevant site. Something to help make decisions.
Yeah, this is all GIS data layers. I'm going to share this, everything I put together for this plan, I'm going to share with land records, so the county will have access to all of it. It could definitely be used as a tool for the county to make decisions like that.
Can somebody turn the mic off?
I've heard that there's 100 lakes in Ashland County. If I were to want to identify them, were any of those layers going to help me with that? And I know some might be named and some might not. So if I wanted to know how to talk about one of those bodies of water, even if they're not significant enough to be named, is there a numbering system and is there any way to find them?
Yeah, the DNR kind of does that, but the numbering system's a little complicated for the layperson. But yeah, you can check out the DNR Surface Water Data Viewer, would be a great tool for identifying. It's a web-based map.
And I'd say the surface water layer does have most of the lakes that are named, has the name layer on it currently. Go ahead.
I know you're not a fan of AI generated stuff. I'm not sure I am either, but I think I found some good things in there. I did a AI compilation of the threats of AI data centers and what communities can do to strengthen their position in the, whether they're going to be there or not, and the things you need to worry about. And I was going to submit it just for the group's evaluation, and obviously you can keep it or you want. Is the group interested in me submitting that? And just seeing it basically tells all the problems communities have had and solutions communities have found to give themselves some control over whether they happen, or if they happen, where they happen. And I'll be happy to submit that, but I know you didn't like the intergovernmental one, so I don't want to waste everybody's time if you're not interested. That's all.
Just to respond to Charlie, I think in the utility section, we've stated that we would want to evaluate the conditions under which we would find a data center or such utilities appropriate. And so that's already stated that we would look at it. I don't think that we want to build any more detail actually into the plan.
And can I just note the irony of using AI to evaluate whether we need a data center? Sorry, don't put.
Anything else on the maps? Well, if you look at these and have something, let Clem know. If there's something that goes, I know it was about a year ago or more that we looked at the current land use one, existing land use, and had a lot of comments, and I think that a lot of those were addressed and looks good, and that was probably the hardest one to create. So
question related to that. Did any insights jump out at you about the current maps versus the old ones?
Not really. I mean, not a whole lot has changed. The traffic counts I did notice were quite a bit higher, so there are more people visiting their area than there were 10 years ago.
Awesome. We only have you to hour and a half today,
Do you want to?
or can we start going through some
We can
action
start.
items? Let's, if there's nothing else on the maps, I think going to back to the action plan review. And I think the way to start might be what headings should be in each of the action plans that Beth brought out. So if we can pull up like any of those action items area before we even get into the meat of it. Right there. And so Beth had recommended maybe we don't need all of these 5 headings on here. And along the same lines, Charlie had said maybe we need the color coded that was in the old one that we kind of talked about and then took away. But so let's start with, everybody agrees that the action step should be included, right? We can just say that one. Go ahead, George.
I think one of the points was that perhaps each action step should follow immediately under its related objective. So it wasn't disagreeing with the
Yeah.
action step. It says, instead of having all the action steps grouped down at the bottom under a list of, after we've listed 6 objectives, let's take objective number 1 and put the relevant action step underneath it. However, that would complexify our task quite a bit. So we might want to pass on it for this year's plan.
Yeah, there definitely is benefits to how this is organized. I think that we can have that as a committee at our August without Emily and Clem here, and we can get into how we want it structured. Although it might end up being Emily that does it, so maybe she wants to be here on that conversation. But one solution would be that it's a big table altogether, and there's a column that says objective, and then the next column is action items, and it's underneath it. And so it's one big table, right? That would make it a little bit easier to manipulate. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, there might be several actions per objective too. So,
Right. And that's why you make it, or the other option is to put another column that refers to objective. It's not as clean as it being right there, but at least you can refer back to what objective each action step is supposed to go, because there might be some of these that hit some of the action items that hit multiple objectives too, right? Lisa?
I wish I had time to, I didn't bring a laptop, but to look at Bayfield counties, just so we could see
I
what
was-
it looks like.
I was just pulling that up because it's in their open house presentation. Except I need to share my screen differently.
And along with that, I reorganized the town of Morris's emergency action plan, which was a plan that says, what are we going to do when we have a disaster? And instead of having all this background information in the front, we put all the actions in the front. And I almost think that is something to talk about for this, just switching the order, because the actions are, and the goals are, to me, way more important than what we're going to look at all the time than 100 pages of what kind of forests and soil types we have. So I don't want to complicate the rearrangement. Maybe we could put that on in the August agenda is order of,
You want to add that for August agenda order of each section. I think that's a good one. Go ahead, Beth.
And similarly, for our open house, I agree with that thinking. people are there to hear what are the action items, what's the objective, what's the overall look? And if we say, this is how the sausage was made, this is what, you know, these are the people who were present, I think that's of less importance to them than getting, what did you guys decide? And this is what I think about that. So I was reassured when you said your entire thing is only 20 minutes. But I think making sure from the minute those people walk through the door that we're here to listen to them
Yeah.
as opposed to telling them too much about who we are and what we did.
Bayfield County also had printed copies of the implementation chapter. So all of the goals, objectives, actions, everybody was able to have a copy of that. But they had the target timeline and the responsible party in their action plan.
Go ahead, George.
I just want to say, I really like that formatting.
Then they had a vision statement for each of the elements instead of an overall vision statement.
I don't think we have time to go into a vision statement for each element at
No.
this point. We'll maintain the overall vision statement. But the only issue with this is some of those action items hit multiple objectives. And so we become duplicative because we put them down twice. And that's probably the reason it was originally laid out the way it is currently, is because we have action items that kind of merge across objectives. I think that format is easier to follow for everybody, where it's objective and then action 1, action 2, action 3. Is the easier way to format it, an easier way to follow, because if somebody's only interested in certain things, they can go look at that. So I think as we go through the action items, the next couple meetings, we should think about at least writing down next to them what objective letter each of those goes to, and maybe it seamlessly flows into that format. Because that wouldn't be too hard to change that format at all.
You can refine and build off of all of this since it's a living document and you have
Right.
this standing committee.
So,
What objectives you might not have an action item for.
right, exactly. And then deal with that. Go ahead, Dan.
I think for the action steps, we can make life easier for ourselves if we incorporate the hazard mitigation plan, the farmland preservation plan, the forestry plan, which all have action steps in it, and it's
Yep.
already been approved by the county board.
Right.
And that would address kind of what Mary Jo was talking about.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have to go over those items anymore because they're already there.
And
Right.
those edits
And they
are
would
in that already.
Yep.
Yeah, and they would conform with the other plans. We would-
Yep.
So I think
The only ones that are not there yet are the climate report action steps, because there were so many of them.
So, back to just the general idea, we like the fact that we'll probably go to objective and then action steps. And so kind of merging those two, we can decide the order at another meeting, but let's think about what needs to be in here. We obviously probably want action step, who's responsible, and then the timing thing. But do we need the resources needed column that Beth mentioned earlier? I wish you left Bayfield counties up there to see what they had. I don't remember what
They
they had.
had timeline and who's responsible.
So, Charlie?
Well, I don't care what it's labeled,
Yeah.
but if it's really just an obstacle to its achievement. You call it resources needed, but maybe we want to, and 100%, we're not going to know specifically until we actually dig down at a meeting to that particular item and we're beating it up. But how could we state that we know we're going to need resources, or that resources are stopping us? Obviously, we know resources are stopping us. We might have some idea of what that is. I envisioned it was always going to be staff and or money, or you could always just say money, because money buys staff and it buys material. So
So you need the who and the when.
Well, I don't know. What I want to make sure is in here is if someone asks us what's stopping us, we can point them to an answer. You know, because we'll have, if we have a comprehensive plan, it's got goals that we would like to see, but all of us pretty much know we might never get that. And can we tell them why? I want to be able to tell them why. But obviously that's my perspective, and the group gets to decide.
Do you think maybe that the resources needed in the evaluation are columns that we put into our annual review of where we're at, as opposed to the plan? It's why didn't we do it? So like there would be, instead of who's responsible status or when resource needed, it would be, was it completed? Why? Or what was the result? Why was it not completed? And what are we going to do to try to get it completed?
Sorry.
Genius. I love it. I totally love it. It's 3:45. It's late in the day. My mind doesn't even think like that, but I'm able to understand you. I think it's a great idea because we're going to need tools to evaluate, are we successful or not? And those are the questions that help us evaluate our success, right? Like, how come we didn't do action 5Z? Well, we don't have any money and we don't have any staff.
And it gives us the assignment as a committee to worry about resources that we might need to help adapt the plan, as opposed to saying, why, if we know we need resources, why aren't we saying that as an action step to get those resources?
Agreed. How much do you, how much do you want to reveal to the public in this plan? Should they read it? Do you care if they know this plan is pie in the sky, this plan isn't? Or do you want to reveal to them, we have a resource shortage and what specifically it? I don't know how detailed we want to get to the public. If we're going to approach it ourselves in that fashion, then that could also be used to communicate to the state. It made us write a plan. You know, here, we need help.
Right.
So to me, that's all. How we get there, I don't care, as long as we get there. And if Lissa's excited about it, then I certainly will be too.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I'm happy to leave the resources part out now and include it in evaluation because, as they say, there are many ways to skin a cat. So you can have a lot of money and totally waste it, or you can have a little bit of money and be really effective. So because there are different ways to get things done, maybe that comes in the evaluation steps.
And so do we need the evaluation step as well on here?
Only when we get to evaluation, but not in the plan, no.
So I think, yeah, getting rid of the last two columns, everybody's good with that? Beth?
I really am. And if we want to look, if we want to address what Charlie's concerned about, or if people will say, well, how do you know you're there? We could just make one statement that says, you know, we recognize that resources are needed and goals and an evaluation is needed to guide our process. And that will now be in, you know, one statement, because basically we're repeating ourselves with those two columns over and over and over again anyway. So just, we can say it so it's addressed, but not waste so much time on.
I think that's a perfect spot to put that in the introduction of, we understand resources and we will be evaluating it, and getting back to some of the stuff that Mary Jo asked is maybe specific timeline in that introduction on when these reviews are. And I kind of like Lissa's suggestion of the first quarter, that we kind of do that. And so maybe that's just some wordsmithing up top in that introduction. Yep.
So we'll be adding a column called review.
I don't think we need to add it to here. What we're going to have is basically a different table that we're going to fill out as a committee when we do that review.
Would you do it that same route in your hazard mitigation plan? You have a status and progress column added that you review every 5 years?
Yeah.
So it's good that you would do the same for this. Yeah, have you looked at the mitigation action plan? Yeah, there's a 5-year This will be an annual review, and that also has an annual review, but it has an added evaluation, status and progress review column.
I'm going against my instinct of getting rid of these columns because I don't think too much information ever hurt anybody, but only because we're having an active committee that you're saying is now going to have an evaluation process. And as we come to the end of those evaluation processes, we can send messages to the state or whoever our representatives are. And if that's happening, then I'm not trying to fight about anything in here. I don't know about you're suggesting a column. What
That
was
would be in your
it? In our
similar,
committee
yeah,
checklist?
as you review this annually as the planning committee,
Okay.
you would review the evaluation and the resources needed and the status and the progress of each of the actions.
That's fine.
And before you delete all those, because I think there's some in there that we could be redundant, if you want to like make another table that's not in there, but just that has what's in there, that we can have some place to start on
Yeah.
the
we could do
resources
that.
needed in evaluation when
Yes,
we
we
do
did that.
evaluate that.
Should plan.
So kind of take some of this, keep this table.
Yes, we'll do that.
But yeah, delete those two columns for the plan, but
Yes.
keep that table so we have a starting point.
Plan is color coded.
Yeah,
Well-
it's better to have an act. So we're going to turn this into an active verb at the meetings.
Yes,
And we don't need to note it in the plan.
right.
No, we can do that. And it could be an appendix.
Yep.
That you fill out.
But back to the color code, I think this is another thing, as Charlie brought up at the last meeting, of whether we should have these color coded to kind of help direct the readers into what we think we can accomplish, what we can't accomplish. Go ahead, Charlie.
Regarding that, again, I don't care how it's marked. Does this body agree that identifying something as currently being met to an adequate degree, that was a green dot, or objective is currently being met but could use additional support, that was a yellow dot. Objective is currently not being met, that was a red dot. And that was so easy to pull out. I could tell everybody what the issues are with that. If there's some other way to represent that, I'm fine with it. If the body doesn't, obviously, if the body doesn't think that's necessary, I mean, there's nothing I can do.
George, go ahead.
Yeah, so I happen to be troglodyte who thinks too much information is damaging. I think we ought to do everything we can to keep this simple and easy to understand. Otherwise, it'll lose its utility, in my opinion.
Oh, you're just cooling off.
I agree with George.
And I have it's interesting to me what Charlie just read as being red, yellow, and green, because I thought red, yellow, and green was a priority grading, which
Yeah.
is not the same as when are we going to get to this. So it's very interesting that he actually defined those, because there's two ways to look at them. So whichever, if we decide to include it or not, let's be really clear about what it is, because I thought instinctively, oh, this is the thing that if we only can do one thing, this is the thing we want to get done now.
When we had the discussion and ended up taking the color codes out, that was basically where I went with the document. I was like, wait a second, what's this mean? And so I think that's why we did. How about this? We can color code the evaluation that's going to become the appendix when we're evaluating it, and show then how it changes each year.
I'm just so grateful that we're taking this so seriously now. I don't really give a rat's. If nobody likes those, that's fine. We all have our ideas, and not all of our ideas get accepted. I'm perfectly fine with nobody liking. I will tell you though, that was an extension idea, and supported by all sorts of extension professionals and other plans in other places. It doesn't necessarily mean it fits here, but it sounded good to all of us at the time. But we weren't having a standing committee. We
Right.
weren't going back at it. We didn't. So we're establishing a process where we do this actively, and that's better. So I'll take it.
Right. And I think that's where we can highlight, when we do an evaluation, we highlight the stuff that, hey, we're not doing, this is where we want to go to the department chairs or department heads, committee chairs and say, hey, what can we do to work on these things that we think as a planning committee are important, but we're not even touching it. I think that it's more of an evaluation thing, especially the way you described it. And so are we good with that? So we're going to have 3 columns? 3 columns, the when, the who, and the what. Beth.
And I have a further comment about who. As you can see, we have really inconsistent who's listed. So I was wondering if we wanted to streamline who could be, which department is basically going to be dealing with this when that makes sense, which I think will be 90% of the time. Because otherwise, sometimes we list our partner agencies, but when you say who is responsible, it will never be the town of Butternut for a county plan. So I feel like there's a mismatch there. So the who is responsible is ultimately either going to be the county board, Dan, or the department head. So let's just, or the people in some ways who never get mentioned here. So in some ways, I feel like if we're going to keep who, we should put some rules around it.
George.
I think we missed committee there. A committee is a who.
Yeah, I think that's, Dan, do you have something or?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking it's getting late. We should probably set the next
Yep,
meeting date.
Well,
Can we just say one, can I say
yep,
one?
go ahead, Liz.
Just, I know the extreme weather group added who's that were even outside the county. And our rationale was that we know we're intergovernmental, got a whole chapter on the importance of that. And some of the who's are county partners that, you know, like the tribe is in a lot of the natural resources chapter. So I would love us to maybe continue populating more accurately the who in the other chapters with, and not just keep it county department heads.
And so I think at our next meeting that we're going to schedule, I think that's what we'll have to go through is basically go through each action step. Who's responsible, when, agree on that and kind of go through. And it's probably going to be 2 meetings to get through all of these. Some of them are we're going to be able to fly through because they're straight from other plans. And we can just say, yep, check that off. We don't want to conflict with other plans. But so Beth, you got one more thing?
Yeah. Well, then that would be who is responsible is the wrong heading. It could either say lead and collaborators or something like that. It's
Okay.
just-
So we'll pick up on starting that with hopefully maybe an updated version.
Yes, send an update.
That will all have an updated version that will start going through each action step, make sure it goes well at our next meeting, which we should have in August. So I'm not good on that day. I have to take my wife to the airport. What's the first week of August look like in case we need to have that second one earlier than September 15th?
Until August 7th, I'm really slammed.
Okay. So how about the second week of August then?
August 12th. Oh, it's Columbus Day.
Yeah, I cannot do the August 12th.
Oh, wait, no, I'm
I could do August 11th.
there's a county board meeting that day, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a county board on August 11th.
Okay.
No, I don't think there's going to be an August county board.
August 11th, 2 PM. I have a keg just 2 blocks or 5 blocks away. We could just meet at my house.
I move we meet at Brad's house.
And then Emily, are you going to incorporate the existing plans, action steps? Okay.
So August 11th, we'll likely have to have at least one more meeting before the September 15th meeting as well, just to make sure we're finalizing on all of that. So think about that, but if we can come prepared to kind of go through all the action items, and there's a lot of them. If there's any way to highlight which ones are from other plans. At one point, yeah. Okay, Beth.
I guess I'm confused because Mary Jo just said there were 25 pages of action items, or somebody said that, and none of them are in here. And you're saying, yes, they are. And you're saying they're not, but they are. I don't understand.
It's the 25 that haven't been that Mary Jo was talking about. The one plan that has not been that has 25. Right. August 11th.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We're at the end of the agenda. Meeting adjourned.